Welcome back to another episode of WagMe TV. As always, if you like this content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe below, and let's get into it.
The boys are back, and today we're going to be diving in and giving you everything you need to know about a really special L2 blockchain that has all the headlines right now, and that is Arbitrum. So we're going to get right into it. Ev, can you start us off with kind of what is the history of Arbitrum? Can you tell us a little bit about kind of their backstory?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a super exciting project and one I think we've wanted to cover for a while now. But, we saw Arbitrum get started in 2019. That's when the official pilot hit the market. But then in 2021, we really saw the emergence of Arbitrum One, the first chain that Off-Chain Labs published. And what they really wanted to accomplish this one was to address use cases around DeFi and NFTs. And so this was really something that competed with Optimism, another L2. And the big differentiator that we see with these L2s is they have the security of Ethereum, but they have higher TPS and lower gas fees within their network. So you could see why that would make sense for these DeFi and NFT use cases, because these coins or different NFTs that you're going to buy would just cost less. And so, there was a real interest in what this stuff can do. And I think in the last year, we saw really an emergence in the L2 space with Arbitrum taking the lead on that. And so for the past year, we really saw Arbitrum One put out some awesome projects, I think, around GMX, which we'll go into more around the Treasure gaming platform. But then also in 2021, we saw the emergence of their other chain called Arbitrum Nova. And this actually has a pretty interesting backstory. This was a chain that was built out during the Reddit scaling challenge that they had to scale the community points onto L2s. And essentially what they wanted to do was make these community points, which you accrue in Reddit, into crypto coins, cryptocurrencies. And so this was something that they wanted to offer their users. And Arbitrum really won this competition and won the bid to be able to implement this on their platform. So, that's a brief overview, but, obviously a ton of momentum with Arbitrum in the last couple of years here.
Absolutely. I think, to start off, we can maybe start by talking specifically about Arbitrum One and some of the interesting projects that we're seeing there. We're going to do a whole other episode focusing on deep diving into Arbitrum specific projects, but you can't really talk about Arbitrum without mentioning GMX, right? I think maybe close to half of the entire TVL of Arbitrum as a whole chain is locked up in GMX, and that's by far and away been the most successful platform on Arbitrum so far. What GMX is basically a decentralized perpetuals exchange. And so it allows you to do a lot of the stuff that you wouldn't actually be able to do without being on a centralized exchange like Binance or something like that. It allows you to take a lot of leverage, which for us in the United States, I think the maximum we can really get in any exchange is maybe 5 times leverage. On Arbitrum, the way it's set up, you can actually go up to 50x leverage. Obviously, you have a very tight liquidation threshold there, and that obviously carries a ton of risk. But just to be able to do that is something that's pretty interesting, right?
Do with that information what you will. Not financial advice on the 50x leverage.
Definitely be careful with that one if you're going to try it. But there is that optionality, and it does open up a whole scope of things that previously weren't accessible to a lot of people. Not to mention just the exchange itself is very well made, very smooth. Arbitrum is extremely smooth and has very low gas fees. So all of that is, for me, just really bullish on the entire project in general.
And so, with your experience with GMX, what, I guess in like a percentage compared to Ethereum gas fees, what are you getting on the Arbitrum side? How much is that savings going from the L1 Ethereum to the L2 Arbitrum?
Yeah, I mean it's orders of magnitude better. So for example, like I think on a average day nowadays on like a Uniswap transaction on Ethereum, you're probably gonna still end up paying somewhere in like the $10 range, maybe more, maybe less, depending on gas. Lately, it's been a little bit more, but in the depths of the bear market, you were able to get it for maybe under $10. But that's kind of the range that you're dealing with. On Arbitrum, I think my average transaction cost is maybe 10 cents. So orders of magnitude better, and that just speaks to the usability. It's also extremely fast, right? So when you are doing the transactions, you're not waiting. You don't have to wait for whatever 30 seconds for your 30 seconds a minute for your transaction to go through. It goes through in maybe 2 seconds or something. So really just good user experience overall.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? So Arbitrum really at this point exists to essentially scale Ethereum, right? So why does Ethereum need the help is really the question at this point, right? It's awesome on its own, just very limited, right? Ethereum blockchain only allows something like 15 to 30 transactions per second. Do we have like a TPS level on Arbitrum specifically? Is that being reported?
I believe it's 40,000 transactions per second.
Yeah, and I think in practice we're probably seeing like a few thousand. I don't think we're reaching that 40,000 on a consistent basis, but still, like you're saying, so magnitude's better than what you would get with Ethereum.
Very cool, very cool. So that kind of that covers it for Arbitrum One, but we want to now talk a little bit about Arbitrum Nova. And so, Ev, can you run us through like what is the exact difference between Arbitrum One and Arbitrum Nova? My personal experience, I've only used DeFi protocols, so I've only ever been on Arbitrum One. But what is Arbitrum Nova actually used for?
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's definitely the newer chain out of the two chains. So it hasn't had the same maturity for developers to be able to build on it. So you don't have these great projects like GMX or Treasure on Nova. But, just a quick recap on it. It is this chain that's built from that Reddit building challenge. It also uses optimistic rollups just like Arbitrum One does. And it's actually more EVM compatible. That was like a big change that they had. It's improved the developer experience while also increasing security. So we've seen like some advances coming from Arbitrum One to Arbitrum Nova. And yeah, it's really meant for gaming and social. And I think the best use cases have been within Reddit, where we've seen certain subreddits like the cryptocurrency subreddit or the Fortnite subreddit launch their own token. I think the cryptocurrency subreddit's token is Moons, while the Fortnite subreddit's is Bricks. And we've talked about it in past episodes, but we always want to be able to take some of this value out of these walled gardens, these platforms where you can't get some of this value outside of it. And that's what these Reddit community points are. And so I think it's really cool that they're adopting it. I don't think, like I said, there's a ton of huge applications built onto it, or none that I've like dove into just yet. But you can already see how it's gotten some mass adoption within those subreddits, which I think is pretty awesome.
Definitely, particularly if it's built for social specifically. I think that's going to be really cool. So we'll definitely keep tabs on that and kind of how that progresses for sure. And I guess that kind of leads us into the next question, which is like, what does the future of Arbitrum really look like, right? Right now, it's kind of like the talk of the town. It's super hot. Everyone is bridging to Arbitrum. The TVL is rising rapidly. It seems like every project that launches on it, or every project that's on it right now is just the tokens are absolutely mooning. But what is like, is this really sustainable? Like what is kind of the future of Arbitrum? We've already touched on, the user experience and just the usability of the blockchain is phenomenal. So it's not really surprising that it's succeeding. The question is like, what does the future look like, and can they keep this going? What do
Yeah,
you guys?
and to stack onto that question, I'd love to kind of add on. We all know that Ethereum is kind of working towards this sharding piece, right? I know it's been mentioned that it'll try to work synergistically, obviously, with some of these layer 2 rollups. But I think a big thing of that in the sharding piece is to increase Ethereum's TPS pretty significantly. I think the last number I saw was about 100,000 once it completely completes the sharding upgrade. So what does that mean for chains like Arbitrum as a whole, with them kind of being focused around that scalability portion of that blockchain trilemma?
Yeah, I think those are great questions. And, I think it starts to expand what blockchains can be used for. At the very base level, a blockchain is a database where data can be written and read from it. And so as you drop the TPS, or as you increase the TPS, you drop the price to write to these blockchains, you start to see that you can put more and more data on them. That increases what these applications that are built on these blockchains can do, really. And so, I think, like you're saying, in the midterm, Vitalik has talked about how L2s are really the way that Ethereum is going to scale. In the long term, I think, a lot of people are kind of confused on, like you're saying, Armada, how those work together. If Ethereum's got sharding implemented and then L2s on top of that, maybe it's overkill. Maybe having sharding plus L2s is overkill. Maybe it also drops that price and increases that TPS so much that we really start to see blockchains used very differently in the development space. And I really think that's where it could be. When you look at cloud providers like AWS or GCP, they offer free tiers of databases and functions to essentially allow developers to get started and get working with that. When you look at adding sharding and then adding layer 2 to like a database, you almost can offer a free tier with how much TPS there will be and how low the prices will be. So I think we talk about it as, this potential problem that could happen, but I don't think we've ever really seen like having free development resources be a bad problem, and so I think it's a good problem to have. And I don't know, that's just my take on it. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I think that's all. Like, I agree with a lot of that, and it's interesting because maybe, if it's 10 cents on Arbitrum now for a transaction, once Ethereum reaches scale, well, is it going to be like sub penny fees, like potentially? Because that's incredible too, right? Being able to transfer money sub penny fees. I don't think we've really seen that at a global scale before. So a lot of things, I think almost the L2 narrative will strengthen almost once Ethereum actually gets to the goals that they're trying to hit, hopefully, if they do, right? That's my personal feeling, because what's already cheap is only going to get cheaper. And kind of as Evan alluded to, like, reducing costs has never been a bad thing. What do you think, Mata?
Yeah, I think you all nailed it on the head. It's just, where do these L2s where is their place within a more upgraded Ethereum, right? I think there's obviously going to be some L2s that are super applicable, and there's going to be others that maybe aren't as necessary once all that goes through. So it's just going to really be finding their market and their niche and their place within the greater Ethereum community that's going to be really important. So it's something that you should obviously look out for when you're looking into L2s and what their futures look like, for sure.
And I think one final note, maybe a challenge for L2s here, is when we talked about this Nova chain, it became more EVM compatible compared to the Arbitrum One chain. And this is something where, like you're saying, Mata, as more upgrades and features are added to Ethereum in the future, it's something that L2s have to stay up with. So, that's definitely a challenge that they need to face in the coming years as well.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for today. We actually are planning a series of episodes on Arbitrum. So if you found this one helpful or useful or interesting, definitely make sure to like, comment, and subscribe down below. And, come and be prepared for next week, because we're probably going to be diving into actual protocols, and that's where we're going to be delivering all the alpha. So make sure you tune in next week, and we'll see you on the flip side. As always, wag me.